Turkish Airlines just shocked the aviation world by placing a $10 billion bet. It has ordered 222 brand new Boeing jets. This deal was announced right after a White House meeting that had everyone whispering about the politics and the reality behind this huge deal. So, what is this order really going to be about? Just geopolitical or a chance for Boeing to make a comeback after years of disaster? The record-breaking deal. When Turkish Airlines announced that it was taking in these 225 brand new Boeing jets, it made it one of the largest single airline orders in recent history. On paper, it looks like a $10 billion handshake. In reality, the deal is about dominance, reach, and who gets to control the skies in the next decade. Let's see. The wide-body portion includes 75 Dreamliners, both the 787-9 and 787-10 variants. 50 of those are locked in as firm orders, and another 25 sit as options, meaning Turkish can flip the switch when it wants more capacity. Deliveries are mapped out carefully between 2029 and 2034, keeping the pipeline full for years. Alongside that, Turkish Airlines finalized negotiations for 150 Boeing 737 MAX jets, 100 firm and 50 options, subject to successful engine talks with CFM International. These are not just random numbers thrown together. With this deal, Turkish Airlines is securing future growth while locking Boeing into a long relationship. At the Istanbul Stock Exchange, the announcement barely nudged the share price. It was up just 0.5%, but the strategic weight is far greater than a single trading day. Behind the scenes, billions more are still on the table. Rolls-Royce, GE Aerospace, and CFM are fighting for lucrative engine supply and maintenance contracts. Whoever wins will collect long-term service revenues, measured in decades. That is why this deal is being described as a mega order with layers of global business interests built in. If anyone doubts that Turkish Airlines is positioning itself to be more than just a regional carrier, the order sheet tells us that it is true and that they are planning to take over. Why the Dreamliner? The Boeing 787 Dreamliner has been hyped as the jet that redefined long-haul flying, and Turkish Airlines clearly agrees. But why put billions on the table for this specific aircraft? The reasons go deeper than just fuel efficiency. First, the technology. More than half of the Dreamliner's structure is made from carbon fiber reinforced composites. That makes it lighter, stronger, and far more resistant to fatigue and corrosion than traditional aluminum airframes. A lighter body means less fuel burned, which translates into operating costs that are roughly 20% lower than older wide-body aircraft, like the Boeing 777-300ER. For an airline that wants to expand aggressively on long-haul routes, those numbers are too good to ignore. Now let's talk about passenger experience. The Dreamliner was the first commercial aircraft to throw away tiny oval windows and bring in 30% larger panes. And they are not just big, they are electronic. Push a button and they dim without needing physical shades. Cabin pressurization is also set at the equivalent of 6,000 feet rather than the usual 8,000. What does that mean in real life? Passengers arrive with less fatigue, fewer headaches, and reduced jet lag. Plus, there is higher humidity, advanced air filtration, and quieter engines. As a result, you have a plane that doesn't just transport but sells itself as a more comfortable way to fly. For Turkish Airlines, comfort is not just a perk, it's their weapon. Istanbul's new airport is being groomed as a mega hub, pulling in connecting passengers from Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Americas. When travelers have the choice between flying through Dubai, Doha, or Istanbul, the aircraft experience matters. A passenger who remembers feeling better after a 12-hour flight on a Dreamliner is more likely to book Turkish again. Capacity flexibility also plays a role here. The airline is taking both the 787-9 and the larger 787-10. The 787-9 has a range of over 14,000 kilometers. This range will help it hit destinations deep in Asia or non-stop US West Coast routes. The 787-10 gives them higher seating density, perfect for busy transcontinental routes where volume trumps range. Together, these models allow Turkish Airlines to fine-tune its network depending on demand. And let's not skip the sustainability angle. With European regulators pushing hard on emissions targets and public pressure mounting against airlines, having a fleet that burns 20% less fuel is critical. Turkish Airlines' plan to have all new generation aircraft by 2035 makes the Dreamliner a cornerstone of its environmental positioning. It's not just about being green, This order will allow them to grow in markets where regulations could otherwise choke expansion. Their strong vision. Now, Turkish Airlines didn't wake up one morning and decide to throw billions at Boeing. This move is part of a much bigger story, one that stretches from its early days with just 5 aircraft in 1933 to its current vision of dominating the global skies by 2033. And if you think that sounds ambitious, wait until you see how they plan to get there. The airline today is not just a flag carrier, it's a global connector. Serving more than 130 countries, Turkish Airlines already flies to more destinations than any other airline in the world. That's a fact that even rivals like Emirates and Qatar Airways cannot match. But the plan is to go even further. By 2033, the target is to reach a fleet of over 800 aircraft and carry 200 million passengers annually. That's nearly double its current size, with a growth rate of about 6% every single year. The numbers back up the ambition. As of mid-2025, the fleet stood at 485 aircraft. By locking in nearly 6 additional planes between Boeing and Airbus, Turkish Airlines is essentially guaranteeing it has the hardware to scale. It's not leaving anything to chance. Last year, they placed a monster order of 355 Airbus aircraft, showing they are not leaning on one manufacturer. This dual supplier strategy keeps prices competitive and avoids getting trapped if Boeing or Airbus runs into production delays. It's a smart hedge when billions are on the line. History gives some perspective here. For decades, Turkish Airlines was known mainly as a regional operator, overshadowed by European giants like Lufthansa and Air France. That changed in the 2000s, when the airline leaned hard into the geographic advantage of Istanbul. Positioned literally at the crossroads of Europe and Asia, it became the perfect hub for long-haul connections. The opening of Istanbul's new mega airport in 2019 supercharged that plan, giving it a hub designed to handle 200 million passengers a year. Few airports in the world were built on that scale, and Turkish Airlines has every intention of filling it. There's also a branding angle. Turkish Airlines is not just selling tickets, it is selling an image of Turkey as a modern, global hub of travel and commerce. Every new plane, every new route, and every expansion ties into a larger story of national pride and economic strength. This is not just a company vision, it is also a political and cultural one. Looking at the next decade, the vision is crystal clear. Turkish Airlines wants Istanbul to rival Dubai and Doha as the transfer point of choice, while also competing with Lufthansa and Air France on Europe's doorstep. The Boeing factor, redemption, or risk. For Boeing, the Turkish Airlines mega order feels like oxygen. After years of bad press and shaky investor confidence, this deal feels like a lifeline. The Dreamliner deal is being marketed as a comeback moment, but anyone who has been watching Boeing over the last decade knows the company is walking on thin ice. One misstep, and this shiny contract could turn into another public disaster. Let's rewind. Boeing was once the untouchable leader of global aviation. The 747 was the queen of the skies. The 777 became the backbone of long-haul fleets, and the 737 defined short-haul travel for decades. But then the cracks started to show. Quite literally, the 737 MAX scandal was the turning point. 2 brand new jets went down in terrifying crashes: Lion Air Flight 610 in Indonesia in 2018, and Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302 in 2019. A total of 346 people were killed. Investigations revealed a rushed design process, a faulty MCAS software system, and a culture inside Boeing that prioritized speed to market over safety. Regulators grounded the entire global fleet for nearly 2 years. Airlines lost billions, and Boeing's reputation took a hit it still hasn't recovered from. But that wasn't the end. The Dreamliner itself, yes, the same aircraft Turkish Airlines just ordered, was pulled into controversy. Deliveries were frozen in 2021 after production flaws were discovered. Gaps in fuselage sections, shoddy workmanship, and questionable quality control left dozens of completed aircraft parked in storage, unable to be delivered. Airlines that were depending on those planes had to scramble. Boeing only restarted deliveries after the FAA gave a cautious green light, but the trust damage was done. And then there was Alaska Airlines Flight 1282 in January 2024. A 737 MAX 9 suffered a terrifying blowout when a cabin panel ripped away mid-flight. Luckily, no one was killed, but the images of a gaping hole in the side of a brand new jet went viral worldwide. It was the nightmare Boeing didn't need, and regulators again turned up the heat. Now let's talk about the present. Ryanair, one of Boeing's biggest customers, has been openly frustrated. CEO Michael O'Leary has repeatedly blasted Boeing for delays, saying the airline might have to walk away from future MAX orders if the manufacturer doesn't get its act together. When one of your most loyal customers starts threatening to go to Airbus, you know the pressure is real. That's the backdrop for the Turkish Airlines order. Boeing desperately needed a win, and on paper, it got one. 75 Dreamliners plus 150 MAX aircraft is a monster headline, but headlines don't deliver planes. Production lines do, and that's where the risk lies. Boeing has to prove it can consistently deliver safe, on-time aircraft for the next decade, something it hasn't managed to do in recent memory. The stakes are massive. This order supports what Boeing claims is 123,000 American jobs. That gives the deal political weight in Washington, where lawmakers can point to it as proof that Boeing is still a pillar of the U.S. economy. But that spotlight also means every delay, every defect, and every safety incident will be amplified. And the competition is not sitting still. Airbus has pulled far ahead in new orders, thanks to its A321neo dominating the single-aisle market, and its A350 carving out a premium niche in long-haul. Boeing cannot afford another slip, because airlines like Turkish can and will turn to Airbus if deliveries go wrong. Turkish has already hedged its bets with a massive Airbus order last year. The message is clear: Boeing is on probation. What makes this deal fascinating is its double-edged nature. If Boeing nails it, the Turkish Airlines order becomes a redemption story, a proof that the company can deliver wide-bodies at scale again, and proof to investors that Boeing has stabilized. But if Boeing fails, if another blowout, another delay, or another production halt hits the news, this deal will become the evidence that airlines were wrong to trust them again. And let's be blunt, Boeing doesn't have unlimited chances left. Airlines and passengers have long memories. Lion Air, Ethiopian, Alaska Airlines, those names still hang over Boeing like a shadow. Turkish Airlines is betting on a comeback, but the world is watching to see if that bet pays off or blows up at 35,000 feet. Geopolitics behind the deal now. If you think this order was only about planes, think again. Deals this big are never just business. They are politics dressed up in business suits. The timing says it all. The Boeing announcement came right after a high-profile meeting between President Erdogan and Donald Trump in Washington. It was not really just a coincidence. Aviation has always been a soft power tool. Buying American planes signals alignment with U.S. interests, especially when Turkey's foreign policy has been a balancing act between NATO and Russia. Erdogan has been walking that tightrope for years, buying Russian defense systems on one hand, then negotiating with Washington for trade relief on the other. Dropping billions on Boeing jets is the kind of move that tilts the scales. There's also the defense shadow. Turkey was frozen out of the F-35 fighter jet program after purchasing Russia's S-400 missile system. Now, rumors around this Boeing deal suggest it could smooth the path for Turkey to regain access to advanced U.S. defense tech, or at least soften sanctions that have been choking parts of its economy. It's not in the press releases, but everyone in the industry knows how these conversations go. Energy politics sneaks in too. Turkey has been pressured to cut its reliance on Russian oil and gas. Aligning with U.S. manufacturers like Boeing fits into that bigger narrative of realigning economic ties away from Moscow. And let's not forget, aviation orders are a perfect diplomatic signal. They create American jobs, make Wall Street happy, and give Washington a reason to keep Ankara close. For Turkish Airlines, the geopolitical game is just as important as the commercial one. A $10 billion order shows loyalty to Washington while still keeping Airbus in the mix to appease Europe. It's a balancing act, but also a statement that Turkey is playing both tables, and right now, it's winning chips from both sides. Now tell us, what do you really think about this deal? Share your opinions with us in the comments section below. If you thought this was intense, there are plenty more stories like it. If you want to hear them, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Goodbye.